August, 1958. Northern California. A road crew is cutting a logging track into country so steep the maps go pale. One morning they come back to find that something has walked through their worksite in the night. Footprints, 16 inches long, striding past a bulldozer nobody could have moved. The operator kneels in the wet clay and reaches for the plaster.
Tonight, the Atlas at its 14th spin. The wet green forests of the Pacific Northwest. This is a story of the most famous monster in America. Who made him, and the far older name that was here long before he arrived.
Ask 100 people who say they have seen him and the description barely wavers. 7 to 9 feet tall. 4 to 500 pounds under coarse dark hair. A low sloping brow, a ridge of bone along the crown, and no neck. The head sits straight down on the shoulders. The arms hang past the knees. And witnesses fix on the walk, long, flat, gliding strides with no bounce, the whole body turning at once when he looks back, because there is nothing to turn.
That is very specific for something nobody has ever caught.
It is. And there is more of it. A smell like a wet dog left in a hot car, arriving before he does. Whistles at the wrong pitch for a bird. Wood knocked against wood in the dark, twice, then an answer further off. Most reports are not sightings at all. They are sounds. And then the thing the legend is named for. 14 to 18 inches. 5 toes, flat, no arch. Some casts carry fine ridges in the skin, like fingerprints. Thousands have been poured, from Alaska to Florida.
So there is physical evidence.
There are thousands of casts. That is not the same sentence. A cast records a shape someone found in mud, and mud takes any shape you press into it. Hold that thought. Back to that worksite. It is Bluff Creek, in the Six Rivers National Forest, and the man kneeling in the mud is a bulldozer operator named Jerry Crew. The crew had been finding the tracks for weeks, and had already nicknamed whoever was out there, Bigfoot, 2 words, a private joke. Crew pours a cast of one print and carries it into town, and somebody photographs him holding it, an ordinary working man in a checked shirt, cradling a foot longer than his forearm. That is the moment the joke stops being private.
Wait. A newspaper columnist named him.
On the 6th of October, 1958, a columnist at the Humboldt Times called Andrew Genzoli put it on the front page, and shortened the crew's 2 words into one. Bigfoot. The wire services had it within days. The New York Times ran it. Inside a month, a joke in a logging camp was a word every American knew. The name was new. The stories were not. In 1924, 5 miners on the flank of Mount St. Helens said their cabin was attacked all night by 8 men hurling rocks. The place is still called Ape Canyon. A game warden went up, found nothing, and called it bunk. A boys' summer camp nearby had a tradition of rolling stones down that slope. Rangers showed reporters how easily the tracks could be faked. The canyon kept the name anyway. 9 years later, the story returns to the same creek. The 20th of October, 1967. 2 men on horseback, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin, riding a sandbar at Bluff Creek. The horse is shy. Patterson gets down with a rented 16mm camera and runs. What he comes back with is 59 seconds long and shakes for most of it. A tall dark figure walking away across the gravel, unhurried. And then, without breaking stride, it turns its whole upper body and looks back at the camera. That frame has been printed more than any photograph in this field.
Everyone has seen that clip. Is it real or not?
nobody has settled it. In 1999, 32 years on, Bob H. Hieronymus said he had worn the suit for $1,000 he never received. But a costume maker, Philip Morris, says he sold Patterson an off-the-shelf gorilla suit. The two confessions describe different costumes. They cannot both be right. Rick Baker, who has built more famous apes than anyone alive, once called it cheap fake fur, then named the man he believed built the suit, and later took that back. Others measured the stride and disagreed with each other about that too. What nobody has ever produced is the suit. Now the part that is settled. In 2002, Ray Wallace died. Wallace had held the logging contract at Bluff Creek in '58, the very job Jerry Crew was working. After the funeral, his family brought something out of the basement, a pair of enormous feet, carved out of wood. Ray made the tracks, they said. He had taken the trick from a 1930s prankster called Rant Mullens.
So the tracks that started all of this were a joke.
Believers argue about how much that story really covers. Nobody argues that the carved feet exist. The footprint that gave the monster his name has a woodworker attached to it. Then science took its turn. In 2014, the Oxford geneticist Brian Sykes made an open call, "Send me your samples." 57 hairs arrived. 30 gave usable DNA. The results ran in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B, and they are almost comic. Bear. Bear. Bear again. Also horse, porcupine, deer, sheep, a Malaysian tapir and, inevitably, a human. Not one unknown primate.
A bear. A bear does not look like a man.
On its hind legs, in bad light, at 200 yards through wet trees, it does. And the numbers agree. In 2023, a data analyst named Flo Fox on laid citing reports over black bear populations across 37 states and 7 Canadian provinces. The reports follow the bears, roughly one report for every 5,000 bears. And history had made the joke 63 years early. In February 1895, a California newspaper printed the death of a grizzly that had roamed the mountains for 15 years, carrying bullets in his hide. The miners had a name for that bear. They called him Bigfoot.
So that is the whole story. A carved foot and a bear.
It would be, if the thing had begun in 1958. It did not. Bigfoot is only one of his names, and it is the younger one. Sasquatch is not an English word. It is an anglicization of Saskets, which belongs to Halkomelem, the language of the Stalo peoples of the Lower Fraser Valley, in what is now British Columbia. Loosely, it means the wild man. It crossed into English through a schoolteacher and Indian agent named J.W. Burns, who spent years at the Chehalis Reserve, today the Star Isles Nation, writing down what people told him. In 1929, Maclean's magazine printed his article on British Columbia's hairy giants. It ran on the 1st of April.
April the 1st. Of course it did.
Readers treated it as a joke, which tells you more about the readers. And by 1938, 20 years before anyone knelt in the mud at Bluff Creek, Harrison Hot Springs was already holding an event called Sasquatch Days. 2,000 people came to the first one. So the carved feet made Bigfoot. They did not make Saskets. To the Star Isles, he is a caretaker of the land, and he is on the nation's flag. One of these two was invented in a newspaper office. The other was already home. And here is where the story usually goes wrong. Once Bigfoot was famous, every hair-covered being anyone had spoken of on this coast was swept into his file. They were never one creature, and they never belonged to one people. The Lumi, on the coast of northwest Washington, speak of the Semeques, forest dwellers whose whistling can draw a traveler off the path. Further south, in Shuheila's story, the Siatka are night giants, remembered as a real danger to anyone careless after dark. On the central coast of British Columbia, the Kwakwakiawakwa no Dizunukwa, the wild woman of the woods, a giantess who carries off children, whose wealth passes to those brave enough to face her, and whose hollow-eyed mask is still carved and still danced. And from the same coast, Bukwas, who is not a beast at all. He is one of the drowned, standing where the forest meets the tide line, offering food no living person should accept.
So they are all versions of the same creature.
No. That is exactly the mistake. Different nations, different languages, different beings, one of flesh, one of story, one danced in cedar, one a ghost on a beach. Bigfoot is a box built in 1958, and everything older got poured into it. He took to television fast. In 1976, the $6 Million Man gave him a two-part story and put Andre the Giant in a suit, and for a generation of American children that was the definitive Bigfoot. Then in 1987, Harry and the Hendersons moved him into the spare room and won an Academy Award for the makeup. Animal Planet spent 9 seasons finding Bigfoot without finding Bigfoot. A beef jerky company built a campaign on hikers pranking him and being thrown into the trees.
When did he stop being frightening?
Around the point he started selling snacks. Smallfoot flipped it so that we were the myth. Leica's missing link made him lonely and polite. Sneaky Sasquatch lets you play as him, robbing picnic baskets. And Sasquatch Sunset gave a whole film to a family of them, with no human dialogue at all. And when Attack on Titan needed its most unsettling giant, the Beast Titan wore a shape every Bigfoot witness would recognize. Pop culture kept the hair and the footprint and quietly dropped the rest, the language, the coast, the people whose word it borrowed. It remembered the monster. It forgot the name. So where do you go? Willow Creek, California, calls itself the gateway to Bigfoot country, a museum of plaster casts, a carved wooden giant on the main street, a festival every summer. In the Oregon woods there is even a Bigfoot trap, a timber box built in 1974, the only one in America. It has caught bears, hikers, and nothing else.
And people actually celebrate him.
One place has been doing it since 1938. Every June, on the shore of Harrison Lake at the old village site of Qualls, the Star Isles hosts Sasquatch Days, around 60 war canoes on the water, a salmon barbecue, medicine walks, families arriving from up and down the coast. It is not a monster hunt, and it is not a joke about a man in a costume. It is a nation gathering on its own shoreline, under a name it has always owned. Closes the file. There is no unknown ape in these forests. The first tracks were carved out of wood. The hair was bare. The famous film has never been settled and probably never will be, and after 58 years nobody has produced a body, a bone, or a sloot. Bigfoot is not an animal. He is a name a country gave to its own idea of wilderness, a promise that the map still had something left on it. But Sasquatch was never that. He was never lost, and he was never hunted, because he was never a mystery to the people who named him. He was a neighbor.
If your country has a wild man in the woods of its own, tell me his name in the comments. His real one. And if you want the Japanese side of the Atlas, my other channel Yokai Night is waiting. Next time, the Mediterranean and a beast that breathed fire, and the hillside where the fire is still burning.